My name is Montoya Smith, aka Black Socrates, from the Mental Dialogue Talk Show every Saturday morning, 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Highly encourage you to become a regular listener of the Mental Dialogue Talk Show. Obviously, the Cardi B situation has been the hot button item. For those who know about on our show, we don't do the hot button items or whatever. But um, anyway, I did, again, I've just seen this thing circulate so much. I just wanted to give my 3 cents on the situation. And the first thing I'm going to say in general, and then I'm going to get specific to the Cardi B situation. The first thing I'm going to say in general is if you are in a place in which, let's say, as a black man, you're in a space where you don't want to have anything to do with black women, or you have this indictment of black women, or vice versa, you're a black woman who, in a sense, generally feels black men are not protective, or not like in general, like black men are ain't shit or whatever, like these type of things we hear. If you generally have a general feeling about most or all black women as a man, or flip as a woman, you have this negative thing about black men, I will encourage you to look in the mirror, do a mirror check, because that indictment is coming from typically from a place of your own hurt, and you are contending with what you are attracting. And so that's why you may have this indictment where you're like, I need black women to do this, or I need black men, like this whole blanket indictment that's more likely coming from a place of hurt. And if you're familiar with the mental dialogue community, you know we're constantly encouraging our community to consider, getting, in a sense, mentally healthy. You know what I mean? Even considering seeing an expert, I would highly encourage it. If you were fortunate enough to listen to the show a couple of weeks ago, the reality is, even when you're feeling this way about, the other gender, when you're feeling this way, the reality is that's not the majority of black men and black women, even though that may be your experience or what you constantly see against your timeline. So I wanted to say that in general, that please do a mirror check if you have an indictment, a blanket indictment in a negative manner towards the black women or black men in general. So I want to say that first before I get into the specifics of this Cardi B situation. So I'm going to say something that's probably not going to be too popular, and but again, I feel like it has to be said because I keep seeing it, and my honest I really didn't want to have to talk about it, but I feel like I have to because I keep seeing these back and forths between even some men that I highly respect, and they may not respect me after this, but I'm going to speak this truth, this truth from the perspective that I have, and this truth is this concept of equating this situation with Cardi B with a Bill Cosby or R. Kelly. I think that is an extremely weak position for us as black men to take, to try to equate those two things. They are not an equivalent. Now, listen to this. When I say it's not an equivalent, so as I move forward, I want to make this very clear. Me suggesting, and you may feel that they are equivalent. I had a real good talk with a brother who thinks that the situation with her is absolutely equivalent, and that's okay for him to have that opinion. I differ on the opinion, but I do want to make this clear before I explain this. So, in me suggesting that those two things are not equivalent, it's not me making a defense of Cardi B. The behavior is what it was. I'm not making a defense of Cardi B because I say it's not the equivalent that I keep seeing people spread across social media. And the reason I see people making this equivalent or trying to make these two things equivalent is because it looks like to me, as I look at social media, that there are a lot of black men who are looking at black women to say, hey, You dismiss Cosby, you dismiss R. Kelly so quickly. So where is, as I saw one brother say, where is that same energy to dismiss Cardi B after she did what she did? Like I see, in a sense, as almost like a sentiment of black men calling for her head in that manner per se. And I see that as weak because I don't see these things, one, as equivalents. So let me get into that part first, and then I want to speak to a bigger picture after that so I don't run this thing too long. So people mixed up or got questioned. They mixed up two videos from what I understand. I saw the videos and she made a video talking about how she had come up. We saw that. She got that backlash. Then short thereafter, another older video talking about how to get back at black men, in which, if and basically if her, somebody she was dealing with had done her wrong. One, she said, you don't have to just get back by going out and cheating. You can, agree to a threesome, set them up, and that threesome end up being a tranny or whatever. And so people started wondering, well, did she also bring? I mean, some people did, not everybody. Some people didn't mix these things up, but I saw certain people mixing them up as if those two videos go together, as if not only was she robbing these men, but she possibly brought in trannies. Like I know the one guy said it was a condom there or whatever, and not certain what happened to him. So I get that people are mixing those up, and you don't have to. Those are completely separate. And when I separate those two things, it's not that I'm saying either one of them okay, because God knows if I was her man and she sets me up that way, I would be driven to kill her. Like I ain't even gonna run from that. Like if you set me up with a tranny, I'm trying to kill both of them. Like that's just where I'm at with it personally. All right, so I do need to get that out there. Now back to this weak call or sentiment from men, black men saying to women, "Where's the same energy to cancel her? Why y'all not dismissing Cardi B?" Their why is because black women are struggling with how we are even equating these two things as equivalent. I understand that there was drugging, and obviously the tranny situation looks like it's similar to a Bill Cosby or one R. Kelly. But here's the thing, especially from a cultural sense when it comes to hip hop. So in hip hop, we applaud former drug dealers. Former DMX made his living robbing. Like that's how he made his living at one point or whatever, or survived. So we've in the hip hop community specifically, we have. I'm not saying it's right that we do it. I'm just talking about, let's talk reality. We have applauded former criminals turn legit. We've applauded them in hip hop. We look at them as like, oh, they came up, or they've made it, and they're no longer doing their criminal activity. And so when Cardi B gives a response that this is a normal thing in hip hop to tell of your past transgressions and move forward, let's admit she's exactly right. That has always been done. And it's been okay in the culture, obviously not outside of the hip hop culture, but we've applauded, unfortunately, often past criminality in some as not all, not hip hop in general. This is not an indictment on hip hop, but I'm saying there's been a genre within the genre which we've rewarded. Let me see I got Mustafa saying something here. Let me see what he's saying. So you understand how when women are raped, they want to kill the rapers. Oh, okay, yeah, great point about the double standard. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, then that's yeah. So let me get back on point. So thank you, Mustafa. Good point. So when she gave that response, like if we're intellectually honest, we know we do that. So to try to equate, because here's something I said on a post today, and this is probably what drove me to even talk about the Cardi B thing. But had Cardi B told us her come up was stripping and sleeping with men, like that's what she needed to do during her darkest period or without money period or whatever you want to call it. If she had said that's what she did, right, Mimi? Yeah, she's just speaking the truth. Had she said that's what she done, we would be applauding her like we do former robbers and former drug dealers, on the men's side of things. If she said that's what she did, we would be like, dang, bad, hard, messed up she had to do that, but look where she's come from. We would say, that's okay. She decides not to trick them, not sleep with them, and rob them. And oh, Lord, She's the monster that R. Kelly and Bill Cosby are, possibly. Like, that's why I say it's a weak position, in my opinion, for us to try to equate these things. And then let me say this, because some men gonna accuse me of caping for women with this conversation, but I'm the very same man, and especially if you follow Mental Dialogue, I did a Facebook live about the nuances of the Bill Cosby case, for example, in which I still stand by this. That case, because I don't know, based on reading as much of the information that was out publicly, not for certain that the state did everything they could, in a sense, to prove the particular case that took him to jail. And so I say, as a systematic result of that case, I wrote a piece that said it has now become easier for black men to go to jail after the Cosby situation. I'm not changing that from a systemic situation, but the nuance of it has nothing to do with whether I support the man himself. Like, something that we have an issue with in society now is we do everything as an either or, when a lot of things are and or. The concept of two things can be true. That it systematically became tougher for black men in America after the Cosby case, per se, as well as the way yo, what's up, sister? So as well as I understood how sisters were feeling in respect to, in a sense, what Cosby history or past has shown. Like, I get sisters not being in support of that or whatever, right? Here's the thing that we forget when it comes to R. Kelly, for the men who are calling for, in a sense, sisters to dismiss Cardi B. I get, she's not even black, so I've seen people say that, and that's fair. She's not even black, which kind of goes both ways, right? But here's the other aspect for men that are even suggesting that black women dismiss a Cardi B or whatever. Like, let's be real, when it comes to the quote-unquote R. Kelly situation, there's a lot of sisters who still support R. Kelly through all that madness. Those same sisters are probably the same sisters that, as black men are saying, are excusing Cardi B. Like, they don't have an issue with, like those are probably the ones who attend his sold out shows. Them same sisters probably got no issue with Cardi B. So I'm just trying to really balance out and give a perspective that I just think I feel or see is lacking for the men who are now saying women should now call out Cardi B. Like, I just think it's I admit, I think it's an extremely weak position, considering that I've already laid out how I don't see them as equivalent. Again, you don't have to agree with me whether they're equivalents, but I can't see that. Like, an equivalent, like, I had a brother who I respect explain to me, like, how men, how we value our things to the extent. All right, let me see here. Give us a balanced perspective. Malcolm says wrong is wrong, and what Cardi B was clearly wrong. Malcolm, again, let me tell you, when I say I'm talking about these things are not equivalent and people are asking for us to call for her head, I'm not supporting. But when we say wrong is wrong, well, then that means we're going to start dismissing, especially when it comes to, I'm talking about the hip hop culture. Well, we just finna start dismissing people for anything now, because now we're saying, and again, I'm not saying it's okay for her to rob nobody. Like, I'm not saying that at all. Like, she robbed somebody. If they're able to come forward and the statute of limitations is not whatever, that is what it is. It could be handled legally, or whatever. So, but when we to say wrong is wrong, but we equate her wrong to what Cosby and R. Kelly did, like, that makes no sense to me. So that like because people are making that equivalency, to me, that's the better equivalency would be to put her with a DMX or some of y'all might not know, Trey D, for example, from the or whatever. Like, that was his history. He was a robber. Like, that's what he did before he got on rapping. Like, Mustafa says ask the males how the two are equivalent. Like, yeah, they're not. But I think it's a cop out to be honest with you, Malcolm, like I think it's a cop out when we start saying wrong is wrong. Like I told somebody this on another post. So people often write like a autobiography of themselves, or they'll write a biography, and in the biography, their past may have included some past crimes. So you'll see it, and typically if they're writing about them in their autobiography, they're only writing about them because it's past the statute of limitations. Because some of the crimes they write about, they wasn't convicted for. In some of those cases, they may have even did jail for some of the crimes, but not all of the crimes. So in those situations, when those people become famous because they come from this messed up history, the society doesn't start saying, well, now put them in jail because they didn't get in trouble for that crime that they wrote about in their book. So the wrong is wrong is still a weak cop-out to me, because I see it as a very weak position for us as men to make these equivalent, just so that we can see our black women, who I've already addressed at the beginning of this video. If you're just coming on, please go back and watch the beginning of this video. But I see it as an extremely weak position as us as men to now say, oh, we need to make these equivalent, and we want to see black women act the same, forgetting that the same black women that you probably are upset for making an excuse, as y'all say, or even those who support her. I don't support her. I mean, I'll listen to her music. I liked her album. So, I mean, I'm being as straightforward as I can be, as transparent as I can be. But I'm absolutely not suggesting that me saying these things are not equivalent is some type of defense of Cardi B's action. Not defending her actions whatsoever. But I am being consistent on, as a society, how we have never looked for someone to go back, as a society. Like I say, legally, if it's not past the statute of limitation, that's for her to contend with if she put it out there. Yeah, absolutely, Chase. Like I get it. Yeah, I already said that. I know that she's not black or whatever. But to me, it's funny how people are using that. Like y'all wanting black women to dismiss us because she's not even black, and then it's weak as hell to me. Just being very honest, this is a very weak position. And again, I've had somebody make a valid point for why they see it as the equivalent, like what she did. Because, and again, if you're just now tuned in, I definitely explained there were two different videos. One in which and I'm not gonna go all the way through that again. One in which we know the first video we all heard, which was drug him to rob him. And then she had the one where she brought the tranny in to get back at her man. And I think people are mixing the two videos because people are trying to say, oh, Cosby drugged people and had sex with them. And, Mimi, this is, yeah, Chase, you're going to have to go to the beginning. I'm not going to go all the way back through it so that what I'm saying makes sense. I'm going to stay where I'm at. Let me see. Male rappers ultimately paid the price. Not from society, brother. Malcolm, that's not true. He didn't, yeah, like somebody mentioned that to me when I was having this dialogue on another post, and they mentioned DMX. Yeah, he's paid in karma, but he has, as a society, we didn't cancel DMX because he had a history of robbing people, which is how he got down. He wasn't a drug dealer. His own book talks about it. This, again, classic cases. We got these cases, examples, and in hip hop, we've allowed people to tell their hard knock story and keep their position. See, men have been pimping women for years. He tricked off and got served. I said something. Stacey, I said that earlier this week, and one of my partners called me, said I was caping for women. I actually consider the actual scenario a charge it to the game scenario. If the initial activity you do is an illegal one, and and that world includes possibly getting robbed, and the world of Johns and tricking off for sex has always included the unfortunate possibility that you might get robbed. Typically the pimp will often set it up in some of those situations. In this situation, sounds like Cardi B was doing it for herself. She didn't have a pimp that would come in and do it. And that's not, I mean, I'm not saying that happens sometimes. That is a risk, right? And so, some men are mad at me because I say, well, just because they did something illegal, they should get robbed. Like, no, I'm not saying it at all, but it is a strong possibility that it could happen. And in that situation, you can't come forward because you were soliciting for some some pussy. Like, it's when Johns get robbed, they're an easy target because they can't come forward. The same reason, robbers that rob drug dealers rob them is because they can't come forward like a citizen. Like, it's unfortunately part of the game. It's all part of the game. And one of my partners, he's just very upset with me. You know what I'm saying? Say, hey, I'm caping for the women, and I'm sitting here going, I'm not caping for women. I don't see these things as equivalent, and I'm more concerned with the attempt to expect women to see these as the equivalent. To dismiss her is just a position where, as men, let me tell you where I think it comes from. It comes from, as African American men, we constantly get beat up by the society, and then when it comes to whether it's the Me Too movement, the feminist movement, kind of how the Cosby and R. Kelly's things got ran down. I'm talking about when you get into the systemic stuff. So sometimes when because Cosby and R. Kelly transgressed against women, I will say sometimes some sisters struggle with the systemic stuff that seems to be behind the Bill Cosby and R. Kelly stuff. Some women's, I got some sisters who absolutely see that part of it too. So in those situations, as men, even though we're not wanting to be supportive of a R. Kelly or of a Bill Cosby, it gets difficult to address the systemic stuff that makes some of it unfair and makes us as black men become targets based on the systemic attacks that we, at least in our opinions, think that we see. We may not be right, but that's how we see it. So I'm saying that to just say that due to that happening consistently and feeling like that part of it wasn't acknowledged, there's an aspect of us as black men that feel beat up by that push, those movements. And I feel like the concept of making these the equivalent is kind of our hurt wanting to see this situation again. I'm not defending Cardi B, but where our hurt is wanting us to say, well, now do the same thing to this woman like y'all did to these men. Like, I think that it's that hurt that's driving us to want to see this equivalency. So I will say on the flip side, because those who know me very well know that I am not a supporter of the feminist movement. I'm not saying all things that I'm talking about come from them, but I will say here's a reality, whether we want to accept this or not. But I will say that, in a sense, the feminist movement's push for equality in the manner that it does, this is the results that you get. Like and again, I think there are natural differences between men and women to where we complement each other to the extent that pushing for equality becomes unnecessary. And again, and I'm not talking about the word simply equality, but I'm just telling you the way that the feminist movement pushes for it will actually lead to less protection. It will lead to men now looking for, and here's going to be the end of this video. I'm going to see what William had to say after I say this, and then I'll figure it out. So in my opinion, what I am seeing, what it has led to is now, due to men feeling beat up by these concepts during the Cosby and the R. Kelly time, during that period, in a sense, just missing black men and making things easier for black men to possibly, get treated the same, whether, and again, it's not talking about Bill Cosby's or Kelly's guilt or not. I'm just talking about the sentiment and how it feels. It seems like another attack for a lot of black men. And so where the push for equality gets is now men are saying, hey, we want, again, we want this woman whose situation is not equivalent. We're trying to make it equivalent. But we want to now see this woman be held accountable. Here's the reality. Historically, there's not been a point, even to this day, even though the sentiment is getting called for today, there's not been a point in history in which men punish women to the same degree for doing the same crime. We don't have a point in history where that's ever been done. And now people can say, well, now when you start talking equality, then so people can make a rational argument for why that's not right. It would be a rational argument. But that push for equality that disregards our natural differences is why this has never been a problem in the past. And I see it as a good thing. I see it as a good thing that the men in different tribes and different societies around the world have decided, in my mind, with good reason, that, again, I'm not telling anybody to go out and do a crime, but if a woman has had a transgression against a man and versus vice versa, society has not typically not punished that woman the same. As a alpha male, I'm good with that. Now, a lot of men are gonna act like I'm caping, but I'm good with that. And the solid brothers I know throughout this, me watching this on social media, have been solid. We've been looking at a lot of cats like, y'all tripping, man. And I had another cat look at me saying, hey, I'm being toxic. Looking at men, looking down on the men that are calling for Cardi B's head as if this shit is equivalent. I've been told I've been toxic. Just did a show on toxic masculinity 2 weeks ago. Highly encourage you to go listen to it on the Blog Talk Radio, search Mental Dialogue. Again, I respect people's opinion. I'm gonna speak my truth. I see this shit is extremely weak. Let me go back and see what William had to say. I think I need to address him, and we'll kind of close this out. Please share this with people, whether you agree or disagree. I'm all about dialogue. I'm all about and conversations versus either or. I don't think we do good with nuance, and that's why. Anyway, let me see what William had to say. His brother always has something good to say. All right, it says, all right, this is what William had to say, and I'll address this and end this video. Most hip hop labels started with drug and pimp money. We gave that a pass though. Jay-Z and many famous rappers are ex-drug dealers. We gave that a pass though. The difference with Bill and Kelly is they were called to task by white people. We will always give a pass for a hard knock life. The problem is we change our perspective when white people indict black people. See, this brother going down a path that we really need to think about. And this shit ends up being subconscious. Like, you know, the stuff he's saying right now because I see where he's going. I'm gonna finish this. I want y'all to hear this whole comment, but I want to jump in at this point because I see where he's going, and I know people are gonna reject what he's saying because consciously you don't want to act like, you know, you caping and going after these cats because white people said do so. You know what I mean? Like, people don't want to be conscious of that, but I think he's on to something subconsciously. Let me go back and say what he was saying so I can make this succinct. He said, the problem is we change our perspective when white people indict black people. That's a problem. I agree with it. We can't be on both sides of the fence. We have to hold our people accountable or let the past slide. We can't play both sides. And that's what I think is happening right now. And that's what I'm saying. There is no consistency, in my opinion, of this Cardi B situation with how we've treated past celebrities. And what William is saying, which is fine, we can hold everybody accountable and throw their ass under the bus because we know, you know, if we're very honest, you know, the history of some of these celebrities or even the stuff that they're rapping about, let's be honest, is not always a benefit to our children. Now, I'm very careful when it comes to that because I'm a part of the hip hop generation, and I'm not just, for me, I'm actually not about indicting these young artists, especially for the ones who really come from that. Like, what else they gonna talk about? Like, that's their life. And of course, we know a lot of people BSing and making it up or doing it because it's popular. So there's a lot that go with it. Again, but I'm just saying, William is saying it correctly. Either we gonna hold our people accountable, or we gonna let the past slide. But what's happening right now? There's a lot of butthurt men, in my opinion, who now saying, well, hold Cardi B accountable, almost like as a get back. And I just don't see that as proper when these situations is she drugged men to rob them. Cosby, you know, has been convicted of drugging someone to rape them. Again, I don't think the state had enough. Again, I said that earlier. But either way, he was convicted of, those are not equivalents. And then if we're going to cop out and say, well, wrong is wrong, now let's go back and again, the law going to do what it's going to do. But I'm talking about this push on social media is a societal thing. And I don't, with the divide that we currently have, that seems to be growing within the black community between a lot of black women and a lot of black men. There's still a lot of us who are not divided in this way, but I'm seeing it grow, the divide grow. And to me, what Williams' point is very poignant is to let these, in a sense, let others outside of us get us into these ideological battles. It only strengthens the divide, and that's the last thing we need right now. So that's why I led off the video not talking about Cardi B, saying that if you have a blanket indictment of black men, a negative one, a negative indictment of black women, a negative one, you probably need to look in the mirror. That's your own. It's your issues that'll have you attracting the type of energy that makes you see, a lot of black men or all black men is bad if you're a woman, and vice versa. If you're a man, seeing all black women is bad, that's actually your personal issue. Believe it or not, you thinking it's not you. Like that's something that's happening. Like I did a show on talking about what happens with social media. A lot of the narcissism is definitely being created with us having access to these screens. So as beautiful as it allows me to bring my thoughts to you in this manner, us being addicted to it, our brains are literally, science is proving our brains are changing, not only with the attention order deficit that's happening for all of us. That's the downside of this technology giving us access, but also the fact that we are letting our emotions get caught up with what we're seeing on these screens. It definitely can lead to some traits that are not positive. And now I'm seeing us get into these ideological battles. Again, I didn't make this point to dismiss what Cardi B did. I made this point because the last thing we need is now men trying to tell women, hold her accountable. And I know where that's, and I will say, here's one fair place that it's coming from. There are definitely situations, I don't think this is one of them. There are situations where, in a sense, men, in trying to play our role or be protective of our women, sometimes there are situations in which there is in a sense less accountability on the role women play sometimes in some of these dynamics. And so for a lot of men, this Cardi B situation is another one, but it's one that's out front, celebrity showcased situation. So they're using this example, although albeit a weak one in my opinion, it feels like that same scenario where a lot of times some black women will indict black men without having a level of accountability for their own actions. So for them, the Cardi B situation seems like that all over again. So I'm hoping I'm explaining the nuance of, I get where some of it's coming from, but I stand by that this particular situation, not letting her off the hook, but is a weak one to make it an equivalent when I see it more equivalent to, again, a DMX or a Trey D situation. Again, they, like one partner, I'll say this, and let me just give, again, I want to give credit to other perspectives. He says, hey, but when you're drugging somebody to do it, that's a whole nother level. See, to me, that's the dynamic of the differences between us as men and women, right? So a brother, I mean, what would it, like, we would look down on a DMX or a Trey D if they had to drug somebody to rob them again. And let's be honest, a lot of us don't look down on their history because they're no longer acting that. Trey D paid the price, DMX paid the price. Not for, for some of his robbing, but not all of it. Again, so you know what I mean. So, but as a woman, yeah, could she, risk doing it with a gun after she got him hooked up? She could, but just the dynamic of our difference. What was easier? Drug them to sleep, take their shit. Not saying it's okay, but that's like, if that's what you do as a, like, like, if I mean, like there's men who steal and thieves or whatever. Like, again, like, I'm not saying it's okay to do none of this, but again, the difference is, to expect a woman to physically overpower and rob somebody is probably not that or whatever. That's why before they had the drugs to drug somebody to sleep, that's why pimps would set up a mark and they would come in and rob the dude, the physical aspect, or just hold a gun up and their physical presence, man, chills out, they rob them, move on. You know what I'm saying? But I think that's all I'm going to say about it. I've been rambling. I hope it makes sense. I know some people disagree. That's fine too. But I just had to talk on the nuance of this, and I don't want to see us move to a society where the equality gets us to the point where we want to see women punished just as we are. Like, I stand by that. Like, there are differences between men and women that are natural and things they can do that we can't do, and vice versa, that need to, in my opinion, remain in place. We don't throw the baby out with the bathwater like we don't do. Let me see. I see one more comment, I think. Maybe I missed. Hold on. Let me make sure I got all the comments before I go. Let me see. I think I might have got them all. Oh, let me see. I feel bad for Cardi B. She seems like a cool person that caught up on gangster style. Okay, that's what my brother Chase had to say. Possibly. You know what I mean? Like I said, I ain't no huge fan of her character. I'm leery of her being a role model for our girls, but I do get it from the standpoint of our young girls who are caught up maybe in a similar lifestyle based on their life circumstances. How I do get how if in a sense, if that's how she had to come up, how she can become a role model if that's your world. But I'm definitely leery of young ladies not having her as a role model. I can say that again. This wasn't this video wasn't done as a defense of her, but I do see it again. This is the last thing I'll say. It's very weak for men to make the Cosby and R. Kelly turn her into a monster for because if she had just illegally slept with the men and took their money that way, we would be good with that being her history. But because she chose to get more money by robbing them and putting them to sleep, we're now saying she's the same monster as a R. Kelly or Bill Cosby. Those things are not the same. Period. I'm out. Montoya Smith, aka Black Socrates. All I ask is that you think. Please check us out at mentaldialogue.com if you understand what we're doing with this type of dialogue. Mentaldialogue.com. Become a supporter or member. And our next Mental Dialogue live experience is April the 19th at Urban Grind. Come check us out. And every Saturday morning, check us out on the Mental Dialogue. Go to the top of the Mental Dialogue Facebook page. There's the show from last Saturday, which we did is, I'll say this and I'm gone. Can friends have sex? Can friends have sex and remain friends? Beautiful show this Saturday. Special guest Yancey, your host, is out of LA. Great show. Go back and listen to it. It's at the top of the Mental Dialogue Facebook page. It's on my personal page as well. Look, just go down the timeline. I'll see y'all. I'm out. All I ask is that you think.